Hello, my name is Icano Mardones, founder and executive director of the Inclusive Denver Movement. And I'm making this video today for anybody who might be thinking about creating their own nonprofit organization. I want to give you some of my thoughts on the process and definitely some of the things you should be looking out for. I'm in the kind of beginning stages of this whole process. I have been working on this project for years in development, writing stuff down and creating ideas. A little more on my background is I was a special education teacher for 17 years for public schools, and that is something that I was really passionate about. And throughout those years, I noticed some gaps in services for my students once they left the school's care and graduated and moved into adulthood. And as they, aged into their out of school and beyond, I had students who started, turning into their 30s. And as I realized the life situations that they had, it was something that had really taken a toll on me, knowing that the opportunities that were out there for them were very few. And as the years went by, it's something that I knew I wanted to help change. And with my expertise and my passion working with that population, it was something that I decided to finally move on from teaching to create a nonprofit and start, working in a different capacity with adults who have disability. So it was officially it was in February where I put in my resignation and retired from teaching officially and decided to attack this full time. And when I did that, that's when I started creating this, officially, getting the 501c3 status, getting state approval, IRS approval, the whole 9 yards. And it is November 20th, 2025 at this point. And this is where I'm finally starting to get the ball rolling. So I wanted to give you some hard truths that I did not understand prior to jumping into this, because there are some hard truths that are going to slap you across the face. That's just real. I thought I had it planned out. As I was saying earlier, I had been planning this for years, writing things down for a long time. And, when the time came for me to finally make that leap and quit the full-time job that I had, I thought that I was going to be in a firm position to move into a nonprofit and pick up, kind of where I left off. I did know that there was going to be some time before the nonprofit hit, and I actually was able to kind of receive an income from this on my own, which at this point I still have not. But I did some saving, and I actually took a huge risk and cashed out my retirement that I had through teaching in order to bridge that gap of time in between, not getting paid my typical salary and when I can move into a salary through the nonprofit. And again, that time has yet to come. And it's been about 9 months at this point. So it was a good thing that that I did that, but now I have no financial security, future financial security through a retirement. And these are, again, the things that I'll go into them a little more in depth that I did not think about prior to. So one of the first things that I did want to talk about is that the red tape slows everything down. Now, again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. You have approvals you have to get to be an official 501c3. You have to get state approved. You have to get an EIN number. You have to get IRS approved. Now, the most difficult parts of this was coming up with the stuff that you have to turn in to be an official nonprofit for me. When I was coming up with the ideas, I did not know that you had to have a board. and I learned what a board was. I started figuring out who could be on my board, which, by the way, is a very important process. And you really want to be picky about that. But that's not kind of what the red tape is all about that I'm talking about. There's that approval. It takes time. Now, this is not that hard of a process besides getting some of those legal documents, such as articles of incorporation or the bylaws for your nonprofit organization written, which do have to be in legal form and turned in to the state and to the IRS before they'll approve you. You send all that documentation in, you have to pay some fees to do that, and it takes some time for that approval to come through. Mine took a couple months. I think that I was officially approved by the IRS late August. They sent the letter out mid-September. I received the letter by the end of September, giving me my full 501c3 status. The state was much quicker. That came through, I want to say, within a couple weeks. I'm in the state of Colorado, and that process went through smoothly. Now that I was approved, I was really excited, and I was like, here we go. Now I could start fundraising and getting some money for the nonprofit. And I thought I was, that I was good to go. I was just going to be able to get out there and get it. That's not necessarily the case. Another thing that I did not know prior to that was that there are databases like GuideStars, TechSoup, things like that you have to get approval from as well to receive grants and things like that. A lot of times when you are going for grants and you get to receive grants, you have to have a way to be able to receive those funds. So right away, once you have that paperwork saying, hey, you're an official 501c3, you do have to take all that information to a bank, and you also have to be choosy about the bank that you choose for your nonprofit. Look for ones that don't have that many fees. Again, I'm in Colorado. For me, I felt that First Bank was one of the best decisions. Do your own research on those and who you feel. But for me, it being a Colorado bank, I'm a Colorado-based nonprofit. Their fee schedule was what I found to be one of the best out there, which is why I chose them. I'm not plugging them or anything either way. That's just who I went with. Again, do your own research. But I had to take all the documentation with them. And banks are pretty thorough. I went to the bank on my own. I took all my documents. I took the approval notice from the IRS, from the state. I took my board member list. I took every document that I had to be able to open a bank account. That was step one. That's kind of one of the first things that you need to do. And that was like an hour or two at the bank. No big deal at all. But I got that approval. All right. And for me, I had to have money to be able to put into there. Now, most of the stuff I've been doing out of pocket to get this whole thing going. And I didn't want to open up a bank account with any money. So I came out of pocket a little bit to put some money in the account initially. I thought it was going to be bad luck if I started an account with zero. I did not want to do that. Well, you get the bank account and then you're like, all right, the money's going to come flooding in. It doesn't work that way. It just did not. It just doesn't. And if you think that that's how it works, you have another thing coming. That's not the reality, because then you have to start finding the ways to get the money in. Now, I was like, cool, I'm going to get all these grants. I'm going to get money that way. I'm going to start getting a lot of donations. Right now, how do you get these donations? That's another thing. Well, I set up a Zelle right away. Zelle is an easy way. I started my own website. It's inclusivedenvermovement.org. And when you start a website, that's another thing that you're going to have to, you will want to develop as a a nonprofit organization is your own website where you get to explain your mission and your vision and all this programming that you're going to do, and also have a way to get some donations in. Now, you could pick. I use Squarespace to create mine. Again, not a plug or anything like that. That's just who I ended up using. I found that the way that you create the websites was easiest for me to learn. And again, I figured out how to receive donations through them. You have to have a bank account to be able to interface with Squarespace. So then you could whatever donations you get, go from Squarespace into your bank account. And that's a whole thing you have to set up as well. On the website, though, you're able to post the ways that you're able to receive your funds. Now, again, I was able to set up Zelle right away because I had a bank account, and the bank account that I set up was directly in the name of the nonprofit organization. Pretty cut and dry there. Zelle was an easy setup. And by the way, Zelle for me, again, no plug for Zelle. I'm not being paid to say this or anything like that. This is just what I've found. Zelle was the least amount of fees to be able to receive donations. Straight money from here to there. There's no fees in between. So for anyone who is donating, I recommend they donate with Zelle just because it's straight from them to the nonprofit organization. No fees anywhere. Now, when you get into PayPal, that's its own thing. PayPal Giving Fund, I found that a lot of the small grants and big grants that you will try to get will want you to have a PayPal giving account. This is just standard. Again, this is not me plugging PayPal or anything like that. Let me keep that up. That kind of bugs me when it's not up. I don't know why, because I just kind of have my stuff in the background. But again, PayPal Giving Fund is just a standard. You're going to have it. You're going to have to go through the whole setup. Now, this is part of the red tape. PayPal doesn't automatically know that you're a nonprofit organization. You have to prove that. And that's not necessarily up to you how to prove that. You have to be in these databases. And guess what? It takes time for your name to get put in those databases. It has taken the Inclusive Denver movement a lot of time. As I mentioned earlier, we were approved right away at the end of August. Mid-September is when they sent out the paperwork. I got it by the end of September. And I'm barely starting to get into some of the databases now. Within the last 2 weeks, I was officially approved for the PayPal Giving Fund. And once you're in there, then other organizations start to recognize that you are an official 501c3 or nonprofit organization. So that in itself is a process. So you have to think of what's happening in between here and there. My fastest donations started coming through Zelle. The other one that was easy to set up once that got going was the PayPal. I was able to send them some documentation and kind of be able to get opened up to receive a PayPal nonprofit account through email exchanges with them and showing them all my documentation. But again, that was a process. So I had Zelle and PayPal and the website set up pretty relatively quickly in order to start receiving donations. Now, those are more peer-to-peer type donations also. Grants are a whole other beast, right? And most of them, again, they're not going to recognize you. You could have all the documentation in the world, but until you're in these databases, you're not really anything to them, and you're not going to be getting grants and stuff like that. So once you finally start getting that approval in those databases is when you're finally going to be able to get or apply for certain types of grants. All right, now the other big thing that people, right away was people saying, I can only donate with Venmo. for some reason, they don't have a card, or, they can't do it through the website. Maybe they don't want to pay the fees on the website, because even through Squarespace, there's fees. PayPal, there's also fees. Zelle, there's no fees. Venmo, there are fees. Venmo was by far the hardest one for me to set up. I just recently, within this last week, after trying for months and months and months, okay, then maybe that's an extra month, for a couple months, as soon as I had everything, I tried to go in order. Let's set all these ways to be able to get funding right away. Venmo took the longest by far. Venmo was really tough. It took me a while to be able to get that Venmo set up. Again, it just recently was set up. Tons of calls to Venmo, email exchanges, talking with their support, and then finally, getting into the databases, and then providing more documentation, providing all my identification to them. Took a really long time. That's kind of what I mean with cutting the red tape. Really slows things down. Now, you're a 501c3 too, and you're going to want to be able to you try to get access to all the things that you can that are free. There is also, Google does a nonprofit thing as well, which they're very generous to do that. Again, I'm not plugging Google. It's just something that I came across, that I found, that I was able to set up. They give you a little bit more storage and access to things. I do board meetings online through Google Meet. And with the Google Standard account, you only get an hour. You get more leeway with Google Nonprofit, and more access, more data storage, and you get official websites that, mine is, my name is Icaro Mardones, ICARO_MARDONES, at Inclusive Denver Network, inclusivedenvermovement.org. So that's a more official website for me to have, a more professional website for me to have than just making up the one on the typical Google. So make sure that you go after that right when you get your nonprofit set up. And again, tons of emails with Google support. It didn't just work for me just filling out the thing. Again, it took them forever to recognize me as an official 501c3. They didn't see me in the databases. I sent them the documentation. I sent them my identifications, and it took a long time. That probably within the last couple, I think probably within the last week when Venmo did, just within this last week, officially approved through Google Nonprofit. And I had been in communication with them for probably up to 2 months trying to get that all cleared. And now I could give other people who are, I don't have any employees yet, but, board members, if they want an official Inclusive Denver Movement Gmail, can have one. I could set those up for them. And then now I'm eligible to be approved for Google Nonprofit ads, which is something that I'm right about to get into. From what I understand in the videos that I've watched, you have to have your website up to par, and you have to consider a lot of things before you start getting those Google ad grants going. I'm just learning about that process. When I have a better hold on it and when I actually employ it, I've been developing that idea for the past few weeks now and working on that. Maybe I'll make another video on that to talk about how to use the Google ad grants. But there are a lot of entities out there that when you are a nonprofit organization, they're willing to set you up with their kind of like their premium accounts at either a discount or possibly free. Canva is another one. I've used Canva a whole lot trying to design things for my nonprofit organization. Again, it's not a plug for Canva. They're not paying me for this or anything. I wish that was happening, but that's not the case. But I'm grateful for those services that are available from Google or Canva, that Canva has given me access to their premium content, because I am a nonprofit, and I could also share that with people who are affiliated with my nonprofit to use that as well in order to design things for us and all that. Because I developed the QR codes that's for some of the stuff that I'm using, posters that I have and all that. I've used Canva to produce those, and that has been a really good help to have access to those things. Canva, again, too, it's not just like you go to them and say, hey, I'm a nonprofit, thank you very much. It is time consuming to get those approvals. They also go through those same type of databases to recognize you. You can't just say, hey, I have all these documents. They really want you to be in those databases first. So don't expect to just pop up in those. I think even for GoFundMe, I have not been able to set that up yet. I've been going in and checking GoFundMe all the time to see if I'm in. And I ended up having to call the IRS. When you get all your documents, make sure you're saving them. I save all of my files digitally. I also have a folder where I save every single thing that I get in the mail. And as soon as I get this stuff in the mail, I turn it into digital form. And then I save it. Just so I know where all my documents are for the nonprofit. You don't want to lose any of these documents. You don't want to have to call and depend on them to resend documents or anything like that. So as you get them, print them up, save them digitally. That's just a recommendation from me. But GoFundMe, because I haven't been able to get approved for them, and I'm not popping up on whatever database it is that they use. I forgot what the one that they look into. I called the IRS, had to wait a really long time to be able to speak with somebody. They don't have all kinds of workers there. I don't know if you know what's going on with funding and stuff like that, but all around, a lot of places are short of funding. Excuse me really quick. But yeah, I called the IRS, waited, and they said they've done everything they needed to do to give the information to those databases. They said the second Wednesday of every month, databases kind of refresh, whatever, and I could go into new databases on the second Wednesday of every month. I was very hopeful that now in November, being that it was September I didn't get in, October I didn't get in, and I was like, yes, November. And IRS was pretty sure that I'd get in there to the rest of the databases by November, but that did not happen. I have a GoFundMe all written up that I'm just waiting to get out there, but I'm just not being approved because I'm not in their database yet. So again, the red tape will slow everything down. When you're starting to get into this building your nonprofit, make sure that you know that these things don't happen quickly. They take time. So just be ready for that. That's, again, something I did not take the time to consider. Which, one last thing on that, I met somebody by chance who created their own nonprofit, and they said, well, why didn't you use a company to do everything for you? And they mentioned to me that they had paid $3,000 to a company to do all the paperwork for them. And as somebody who just started the nonprofit and did that all on my own, I couldn't imagine having to come up with $3,000 to somehow pay a company just to do the paperwork for me. That doesn't make any sense to me. Hey, if you got money like that, go ahead and spend that $3,000. It will save you some time to get that done, but I don't recommend that. You could do all of that stuff on your own. The forms are readily available online. You have to pay fees when you file those online no matter what. There's no need for you to pay a middleman to get those forms, a middle person, to get those forms for you and fill those forms out for you and do that work for you. It is time consuming. It takes time to do that, no doubt, but it is something that you can do, right? The hardest part again for me was writing the bylaws and articles of incorporation, because I come from an education background, not that background to know how to do that, but I figured that out. And hey, I put my email out there earlier, and I am more than willing to help anyone through that process or any process. So if this is something that you're struggling with, I know that I struggled with that. I've reached out to other nonprofits. I went and visited other nonprofits to see how they run that were similar to what I want to do. And I asked people, let me see your bylaws. Can I please look at those just so I get an idea on what to do? And no one wanted to help me. No one wanted to help me look at theirs. They would say things like, oh, it's proprietary, or we don't share those things, which was disheartening to me, because you would think that nonprofits want to help other nonprofits get going, but that's not the reality either. That's actually another hard truth that I was going to get into, but I will help anybody who sees this video who needs that help getting through that push. Again, I don't recommend that you pay money that you're going to need to get your nonprofit going to a company to do that. I haven't even raised that type of money yet. And I'm going to get into another hard truth about fundraising soon, right? So I couldn't have imagined starting in the hole $3,000 just to have somebody do the paperwork that I am able to do. And I got to work on this timer here on how long my things time out. But anyways, again, I don't recommend that. Again, if you got it like that, do it. But I don't recommend it, because you're going to need that money for something else. 100%. You will need that money for better things than something that you could do on your own. I'll help you through it if that's what you need. Just get in contact with me. All right. Promises are going to be broken. This is a hard truth number 2. As I mentioned earlier, I was in the education system for 17 years. And as I was ready to move on, I spoke to many, many colleagues. Many colleagues were curious about why I was leaving. I was a pretty good teacher. I added a whole lot to the school that I was working at for so long. I had vowed to retire from that school, but something pulled me in a different direction. And when people had found out about it, and I was also planning that with people as the last couple years that I was in education, I was actively talking to a lot of people about my plans and what I was going to do. And let me tell you what, everybody who I spoke about my plan with loved it. Everyone loved the idea. Everyone said, this is needed. Everyone said, this is amazing. Now, I don't know if they were just cheering me on, with empty words or whatever the case is. I know the necessity of what I'm doing, but many people agreed of what I wanted to do. They saw the need for it. I know most of it was sincere, and so many people promised to be there for me when this was all in place. And they all said, when it's in place, call me. I will help you. Guess what? When I had it all in place, when I got everything together, when I cut through all the red tape, very few were there. very few. I could count on my one hand. Well, I have two hands, but I could count on one hand how many people were there to actually help me now, besides my board, to help me through this. I had so many promises on helping me get grants, helping me grant write, helping by volunteer, and everyone promised to donate. It did not happen. It did not happen. And those were some of the things that really helped me to jump off that cliff from moving from teacher to the nonprofit, was this feeling that I had that the world had my back, that these colleagues and these people who I knew for so long would have my back to the fullest, help me, make this decision, which ultimately I would have made either way. They weren't there, and that again is a hard truth. A lot of people who are telling you that they're going to help you through this, they will not. And let me say this also, they don't have to. This isn't their mission. There was a part of me that held and maybe still holds a little bit of, I want to say resentment, but I don't want to be that harsh, because it's not their job. This is what I decided to do. This was a decision that I had made. This has nothing to do with them, even though they may have promised and said that they would be there. It is not their job to hold your hand through this process. They have lives, they have careers. They just will not be there for you. And you can't be angry about it. You can't hold this against them. That's just the way it is. Your real friends will show out. Your real people will show out. They'll support you. But guess what also? It's not them. The people who the people who are familiar with, I don't care how many people you know, they're not the ones who are going to propel your nonprofit organization into success. That's going to be strangers. Strangers are people who you do not know are going to be the ones who propel you into success. And me, as far along as the game that I'm in right now, I have still yet to find those people. I'm looking high and low. I'm lifting up every rock. Every door I could open, I'm doing that. And I have yet to find that. So when I kind of think about that, in that aspect, I just want you to know that I'll go into kind of some of the funding thing and another hard truth, but just expect that this is something that you're going to do alone, which is the hard truth number 3. Unless you built a huge team, which I kind of did not. I have a board who's very helpful, and I had a couple people who are really trying to help me through this. But again, they have their own lives, they have their own professions, they're doing their own thing, they have their own families. You're gonna feel alone. If you don't have a team who's just dedicated to building this with you, you're gonna feel very alone. All the day-to-day stuff, this is one of the most isolated I've ever felt in my life. I have a big family. I have a lot of friends. I have the board. But on the day-to-day stuff, me working on these small things every day, like getting approval from Google, from Canva, from PayPal, that's just getting the ball rolling. This is just the basic stuff. It has nothing to do with writing grants, which take hours to do when you're going for big money, right? You can't just whip out grants. They take time. You have to tailor them to whoever's giving the grant. different grant people want different information. Their missions are different, so you have to find out how your mission and your values align with theirs, and you have to come up with creative ways to try to convince them to give you money. Right now, again, this you're just gonna feel alone because it's a lot of work. The day-to-day grind, I'll tell you, I am disciplined. I am on a daily basis more than what I worked as a teacher, and working on this every day. And the craziest thing is that there's very little to show for it on paper. I have a website created. I've set up Zelle, PayPal, all that stuff. I've filed for a lot of grants. I've made so many contacts with other nonprofit organizations reaching out, created social media stuff to try to get my name out there, generating ideas. A daily basis, I'm here, again, working more probably than I ever had there's no paycheck here. I'm not getting paid for this. This is just things that I'm trying to do. Every little baby step that I could think of to progress with my journey is all on my own. I do run, a lot of my ideas through my friends and stuff like that, but the development, and the board, of course, but the development of these things, I'm the executive director. The day-to-day is me. There's no one else. No one is gonna volunteer a big portion of their time for no pay. Again, other people have jobs and stuff like that, so you're gonna feel alone. You're gonna feel like, wow, I'm all by myself here. I know I feel it. Maybe you created a different environment in a different situation, and that's amazing if you have. But for me, I felt very alone in this process, despite having friends and family and a board who really cares about this and me. So that's another tough thing that you're gonna have to maybe deal with. All right, now the hard truth number 4 for me is, I've mentioned this earlier also, I planned this for years. I think it was 2017 is the first year I remember really starting to think about this. This is when the seed was planted in my head, and ever since then that it just never left my head. And at first I just kind of was developing. This was when I started trying to find other nonprofits to see if there was anything like what I wanted to do. And when I found that there were not really any, there are very few that are doing what I want Inclusive Denver movement to do. And I started reaching out to them. I started seeing how they function. That was the initial way for me in. And as soon as I saw that, that's when I started putting pen to paper and really letting the ideas flow and actually writing them down. And I did that for years. And with the profession that I was in, it was nearly impossible working full-time as a teacher with all the responsibilities that I had. I also have a family. I have 3 children, and managing all of that with the stresses of the job and the demands of the job, I was never able to dedicate enough time to be able to really move forward with the ideas that I had stuck in my head, which just grew louder and louder as the years progressed. And, finally come 2023, 2024, I started really kind of trying to make those breakthroughs. That's when I started progressing with getting all the, the approvals that I needed through the state and through the IRS, and running into a lack of knowledge on how to write those things, like I was saying, articles of incorporations and bylaws and things like that, and developing a board. All that was a real challenge for me with all the responsibilities that I had. And again, the voices just grew louder and louder for me. And then I knew that, all right, in order to progress to the next level with this nonprofit, I have to be able to dedicate full time to that. And at the capacity of a teacher, I did have a lot of free time, weekends always off, holidays off, but the mental load that I took never allowed me to really step away from that enough to where I could give my time to that, which was the reason why I developed the idea to kind of just retire from teaching and put my full focus onto this nonprofit organization. And that's what I did come the end of February. And in March was when I decided full time here on this. And I've been grinding it out ever since. And again, for the last 2 years coming up with the plan, I worked everything out in my head. There's so many nights where I'm just running things through my head, developing programming in my head, waking up late at night, starting to write that out. I have a plan fully developed. It. I thought the hard truth number 4 is your plan is just not going to work. You might think you have a foolproof, bulletproof plan, the most wonderful idea ever created, the best idea anyone's heard of, the greatest need that humanity has ever felt that needed to be filled. You might be ready to fill it. You might have all the answers in the world to the greatest human need, but your plan will not work. Not right away anyways. Not according to how I've experienced things. I thought I was a pretty thoughtful person. I thought that I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how this will work, but the plans to get there did not. I thought I had the greatest scheme to get money funding for this developed. I haven't even been able to really see if that'll work because it's a GoFundMe thing and I haven't been cleared yet. So in the meantime, what am I doing to receive funding? How am I even participating in the programming that my nonprofit is promising without having, funding? I have to be flexible. I have to adapt. I have to be willing to change the whole game plan. And I have been. And guess what? I've had to change it again. And guess what? I've had to change it again. So you may think that you have the bulletproof plan. You probably don't. If you do, that's great. That's amazing. I'd love to hear from you so I could hear what you did. Because I would love to hear that and to use as motivation and to also share ideas so we could both, or anyone who's interested, grow these things together. Because I think that nonprofits should do that. I'll be open sourced with how I got from point A to point B. I'm more than happy to share with people my journey. Because I think that that's what should be done. And what I've encountered is that that's not the case. Nonprofits, for some reason, seem like not all of them want to work together. Not all of them want to share their things like bylaws. I don't see how something like that is proprietary. That's just how you govern your thing. Anyways, your plan won't work. Just be willing to change and adapt and listen to people. You got to reach out. You got to network. You got to talk to others who have been there and done that. I've reached out to people. Again, not very much luck, but just flexibility. And if you're hitting a certain roadblock, I put my information out there. Hit me up. I want to help others. I want help. I'm not perfect. I've never done this before. These are just the things I'm encountering that I just want to put out there for other people who have an idea to do something similar. This is what I've encountered since I've been doing it. The next one I wanted to touch on was you need funding. Touched on this a little bit for a couple things. Funding is something that all nonprofit organizations need. Where does this money come from? Excuse me. I thought I had the plan. I thought I knew the wording to say. I thought that I was going to get money from the public just because I had the greatest idea, that I'm feeling a real need. And it hasn't unfolded how I originally planned. It doesn't mean that it can't unfold that way. It just takes a lot of time. Simple things like when you get set up and you're trying to raise money, simple things that you'll run into are things like, oh, well, I only have a Venmo. Okay. You don't have a credit card. You don't have a debit card. You don't have Zelle. All right. Okay. I didn't have Venmo set up right away. It took a long time. I missed out on donations due to that. Maybe. Maybe it's just an excuse. I don't know. I have all access to all those things. I guess people have preferences. Whatever. Again, it's not that type of thing is kind of confusing and frustrating for me. But those aren't the things, again, that are going to propel my nonprofit to the next level. An individual donor like that who may be donating a couple bucks, I appreciate every single donation. I want every single donation. The big idea I had was getting small donations from a large amount of people. It just doesn't work out that way, or it hasn't for me yet. I haven't had the outreach that I've liked. Again, when I was starting this, I thought that the easiest thing for my friends and family and former colleagues to do would be just sharing, my story and the access to my website and the nonprofit for them to be able to look into and see if that was something that they'd want to donate. And again, that hasn't been the case. Again, I'm not trying to hold anything against people who I felt haven't been there for me or anything like that. But those things that you're like, yeah, all of my friends, all of my colleagues, they're all going to share, and then they're going to share, and then they're going to share, and then they're going to share it. I'm going to get all the money in the world. That was not the reality for me. If that turns out to be the reality for you, again, that's great. And let me know how you did that, because it's something that I know that I need. But the funding is really tough. There's small grants, there's big grants out there. Again, initially, you have to get through the databases to start even to get access to those. There's little grants, Walmart, Target, King Supers, in our area, they do these little grants, and you could apply out for all of those, and all you just need is your paperwork. And they're, maybe for $500, a couple $100, $500, things like that. I haven't gotten any of them yet. I've applied for all of them. Once you get you're in the databases, Walmart has Good Spark, and you can do the roundup thing. So when people go to the store and they go to Walmart, they could set up a roundup. This happens at Kroger too, which I'm working on, but I'm just, again, not in the databases for me to be able to set those up to where when people go shopping, they can round up, and that goes to your nonprofit directly. Those things are great. They're awesome that they're out there. It takes time for you to get in those though. So I'm still not at that point to where I'm in all those. Every day I'm checking to see if they'll allow me to go in to set those up. And Most of them, I'm still not able to have access to those. But then the other thing is once you do have access to those, will people even do it? Do you know enough people who are going to do that, who are going to go to the thing and go through the settings and set up that roundup? Because you can't do it for them. You could say, hey, here's how you do it. They still have to go and set that up, right? And is that going to be your bread and butter for your nonprofit also? Is that going to be what propels your nonprofit to the next level? I don't see that as that, but I just see that as, little money building up here and there. That definitely is meaningful. All the money that your nonprofit could get is very important. So get it however you can. Little things are going to add up to bigger things. That's why you just have to cast this huge net of all these small things that you could find that will start adding up to big things. But again, not everyone's gonna fall in line. Not everyone shares your dreams or values for what you're trying to do. And that can't be anything that discourages you. If you're getting discouraged by that, and going back to the red tape thing, if you're looking to have to pay somebody to file your paperwork to get you cleared as a 501c3, you probably shouldn't even go any further, because if you're not able to take the time to work through that paperwork and figure that out, in my opinion, it's going to be really, really hard for you to figure out the bigger problems, because that's just a matter of clerical office work that you need to figure out, sending documents here or there, getting things properly formatted. That stuff is relatively easy to solve compared to the money thing. So if you're finding that you can't even get the paperwork done, and there's little hiccups like bylaws or articles of incorporation, hey, reach out to me and I'll help you get through that aspect. But if you're really struggling through that and you're not able to figure that out, I think figuring out the rest is going to be really tough. So you really might want to reconsider. Again, these are hard truths for me that I've learned, and I'm trying to share those with anyone who's trying to fund a nonprofit organization, just for you to really think about some of the things that have been my biggest challenges. So funding, one of the last things that I wanted to say about that, big donors don't give a crap about you starters. Startups, you're not getting big grant money if you're a startup. That's the flat out truth. I just had a meeting with a pretty large grant entity, or whatever they're called, just the other day. I was super pumped up, super excited for the opportunity for them to invite me to get a grant. I thought I had all the information I needed. I thought I had the plan. I have the meeting with the person, and that's not the reality. They want to see accomplishments. They want to see data. They want metrics. They want proven things that have worked. They want to see who you've served, how you consider what you're doing is actually accomplishing your mission. If you're just startup, you really don't have that. You're not going to be able to provide that to the big donors. You're not getting big money from donors, grant donors, let me say, to begin with. Because from what I understand, they all want that. You could apply for some, others you have to be invited to. I've applied for some, haven't heard from any. They all, in the applications though, for big money, they ask that. They ask for, who you've served, demographics for people you've served, what you have done, all that stuff. And me as a startup, I don't have really any of that. You're not going to have it either as a startup. You're not going to get those those big grants. You have to be established. This last one I spoke with said in a year, when you've done some stuff, we'll have another meeting. That's just what it is, right? So where does the money come from? Where will you get your funding? I haven't figured out where I get my funding. All the stuff that I've done so far, all out of pocket. Just me building, me with my passion and my dream to get this going. With funding in mind, I really think, or I advise you to figure out how you could make your nonprofit to be a social enterprise, meaning that how will your nonprofit be able to generate its own income? That's where I'm shifting next. I thought I'd be able to get funding. I thought I'd be able to have people donate. I thought I'd be able to make a good GoFundMe and thousands of dollars would just come pouring in. It wasn't the reality for Inclusive Denver Movement. Now I have to think of what can I do to have Inclusive Denver Movement generate its own money. Develop a plan like that. Social enterprise, all that means is you could operate as a business, but any of the money that you're making, it's not for profit. That's what a nonprofit is. It should be common sense. I'm not trying to become a millionaire off of completing my mission. I'm trying to serve the community that I want to serve. I want to give back to the world. I want to make the world a better place. I'm not trying to become a millionaire doing that. That doesn't make sense to me. A nonprofit means I'm not gaining profit. So any of the money that my nonprofit makes is just going to go right back into the nonprofit for programming, for, buying a transportation for our nonprofit, which we need really bad, and also a headquarters, which we need to really be able to start doing what we want to do. So think about a social enterprise and how you could generate your own income through your nonprofit. That will, I think, for me, that's where I think our money is going to come from at this point. And again, you have to be willing to be flexible and adapt and come up with new plans. That's where my mind has taken me. As a teacher, we were really restricted by budget. The budget was not only restricted by the district, but the school's independent thoughts on what budgets should be like for special education and whatnot. We didn't always get the money that we should have, plain and simple. That didn't happen. We were supposed to get X amount of money. We didn't. I encountered that in my job. In the nonprofit, I'm encountering with just getting money in general, right? In my old career as a teacher, I figured out how my program could generate its own money, so we didn't have to count on admin giving us what they should have been giving us. I figured out ways for us to generate money within our school program, and I did that. And for our day-to-day stuff, we didn't have to depend on the school providing for our needs. We figured out how to do that on our own. Inclusive Denver Movement's going to figure out how to do that, right? So that's the next step. Social enterprise, how to generate your own money. Man, I didn't expect to be running up on an hour on this. I hope that this information is helpful for you so far. For anyone who's starting a nonprofit, I somehow always amaze myself on how much I could just go on and on and on about certain things. Starting a nonprofit is super important to me, especially trying to do what I want to do. So I, again, could just go on and on about this. And it's just something that's been living in my head. And I just decided, hey, instead of just thinking this all the time, I'm just going to get out there and make a video to try to help others who might be encountering what I'm encountering, and just give them all the things that I've experienced. This, again, is just my experience. I don't know what other nonprofit organizations or founders have encountered or their thoughts on all of this. These are my personal ones that I've come up with. Let's see here. The last one is you're going to question your decision on why you even did it in the first place. I was comfortable in my profession before, a little too comfortable. So comfortable that I kind of had let myself go physically and mentally. I was living an unhealthy lifestyle, just so comfortable in my ways and my salary and all that. And was part of why I shifted into doing this. Now that I'm here and encountering a whole other type of struggle, I'm questioning my whole life at this point. I'm questioning who I am. I'm questioning my heart. I'm questioning my soul. I'm questioning my motives. I'm questioning why the hell I left that comfort that I had, the salary that I had, the feelings that I got for doing something good in the community where I was born and raised, working with people in the high school level in the same area I grew up, and missing that. And again, just the comfort of knowing how life was unfolding. I was good, I in certain ways, right? Again, I said that I let myself go physically, and I was having some mental struggles, but when it came to the finances and the day-to-day, paying my bills and all that kind of stuff, there wasn't issues there. That's changed. So you're gonna question life itself. You're going to question why the world functions the way it does. You're going to question why the world cares or doesn't care about your cause, because it's going to seem like no one gives a crap. It's going to seem like no one cares about what you think needs to change in the world. And at times it's going to make you angry. It might make you really sad at times. It might make you really, really angry. I know I just said that, but there's so much that it seems like the world just doesn't care about. But when it's personal and when it's something that you've created that you think is just the next big thing for humanity, and no one seems to really be caring, that's a hard pill to swallow. Even though that might not be the reality of things, it is tough to know that money just didn't fly into the account for you to be able to make the changes in the world that you want to see. And you're going to want to quit. You don't know how many times I've thought to just quit. My license is still good for teaching. Just go back to that. Go back to what's familiar. Go back to what's comfortable. That crosses my mind almost all the time. And then I just remember that the voice in my head never went away to begin with. That's why I'm here. If I go back to that, the voice is just going to tell me again that you didn't complete your mission. Why did you leave? I'm torn. I know that that's what's going to happen. So I know that I can't give up, that I just got to move forward. But at the same time, I keep thinking, why did I do this? Why did I choose this route? Why did I choose to do this hard task? You're going to question everything. But when you're really passionate about something and you really have that drive, you're just going to keep going. and I hope that's what you do for your cause. Again, if there's anything that I could do, if anything that I said resonated with you, if there's any questions that you have about my journey or any of the process that you need to go through to build what your heart desires to build, reach out to me. I'll make the time to help. I wish that I would have known who I could reach out to help, to get help. I thought I had that in place. I did not. So you're just going to question everything. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you gained some insight to this video. If you did, like the video, comment in the section if you want to know anything, or if you have questions, or reach out at the email I provided earlier. If you know anyone who wants to start a nonprofit organization, share this video with them, and recommend they watch it, unless they have everything already figured out already, which I'm almost positive that they don't. Not to say anything negative about anyone. I thought I had it all figured out before I went into this. That's why I so easily walked away from all of the comforts that I had to start this to begin with. I thought I had it all figured out. I did not. So share the video with somebody who you think might be starting or who might be starting a nonprofit, so they could hear this information. I think that it should be of value to anyone who's going on that journey. You're definitely not alone. I can't say that I'm necessarily proof that this could get done. Again, I'm still in the baby stages, but if you keep watching my journey, you're going to see that I will turn this into something that's going to be big. My mission is the Inclusive Denver movement. I'm here to make Denver one of the most inclusive cities in the world for people who have disabilities. Nothing's going to stop me at completing my mission. I'm going to keep clawing my way up. I'm going to figure this funding thing out. I'm going to build a successful social enterprise. I keep developing new plans. Follow me and watch my journey. I'll keep posting videos. I have a TikTok, Inclusive Denver Movement. I have a website, inclusivedenvermovement.org. If you want to follow me and watch that journey, reach out to me. Again, you're not alone. Some hard truths to building a nonprofit. Again, I hope it was helpful. Wish you the best of luck if this is what you're going to do. And I'll be there if you need me. Thanks for watching if you're still here.